Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you have had a wonderful week. For those of you who are tuning in back again, welcome back and thank you so much for joining here. Let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from today. And for those of you who are brand new to Mental Health Moment, welcome, welcome. We are here every Tuesday live on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. So welcome. I'm tuning in from Tampa Bay, Florida. And yeah, I've been in Tampa Bay now for a while on these mental health moments. And then the next couple months are going to be a little bit crazier with the travel here, but I will let you know where I'm tuning in from. But again, thanks so much for joining here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. For those of you who are new to Mental Health Moment is all about how do you become the best version of who you are so you can show up powerfully for yourself and for those around you. Really, really important. So we talk about different tips each week in order to achieve those goals. All of us are on a different wellness journey, which is completely okay. It is it is okay to be where you're at right now, but there's always room for improvement, right? No matter where you're at, if you're like Dr. Hammond, I'm just starting out this mental health wellness journey thing. I'm just starting to take care of myself. Congratulations, amazing. Maybe you're like, I'm good. I've been doing this for a while. I'm in maintenance mode. Fantastic. We celebrate you too. So wherever you're at in the process, there's always room for improvement, though, right? So thanks again for those who are still starting to join here. Dr. Hammond here with the Mental Health Moment. So what I wanted to share with you all today, I'm going to share with you a couple tips, of course, as usual. But I was reading this article from Time Magazine. Let me see if I still have it pulled up. Yes, I do. Yay. And it was very fascinating, actually. And I'm going to tell you what I did this past weekend, but it was very fascinating. It was called How Your Five Senses Can Help You Stop Worrying. So it was Time Magazine. Actually, I'm going to put it, you know what? I might be able, I think I can. I'm going to put the article in here in the chat, and I will put it in a little bit later. Let's see if it goes through. There we go. Cool. But yeah, how using your five senses help you to stop worrying. And I'm going to explain what that means. And I'm going to give you a couple tips for this today. Because oftentimes when we're really stressed out, and for those of you who don't know, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. Yay, one of my favorite months of the year, of course. But when we're really stressed out, we're really overwhelmed, it actually can shut down parts of how we sense the world. It can literally shut it down, right? Because we're so worried about something else going on. Maybe that's happened to you before. Like there may be something happening, and all of a sudden you're like, "Wait a minute! It smells like smoke," and you didn't even notice it, right? Wherever you're at, it could be at home, it could be somewhere else because you were so preoccupied in your mind with something, or even tasting different foods sometimes like, it doesn't feel right or it doesn't taste right. Yeah, because we're worried about something else or we're overwhelmed. Like it affects different parts of your senses. So taste, smell, sight, all the different senses, hearing too, can be affected. That's definitely affected by emotions because sometimes we hear things or we don't hear things that was said in the way that the person intended because our emotions are blocking what they're intending the conversation to be about, right? So if we're angry or if we're sad or if we're nervous, sometimes you don't even hear what a person is saying. So nonetheless, so there was this great article and I put it here in the chat by Time Magazine, and they talked about how when you use your five senses, though, when you make a conscious decision to use your five senses, it can actually help you with worrying. So I'm going to share with you all today a couple of tips. And it was so interesting that I found this article because this past weekend, actually, I went to Bath and Body Works and I got these. They're called shower steamers. I should have brought the little jar, but basically they're little shower. They're like a tablet, like about I don't know about this size, big. It's like a little tablet that dissolves in water, basically, and you put it on the bottom of your shower, not in the direct stream of the shower, but like kind of a little bit off to the side. And nonetheless, the steam, of course, helps to melt this tablet. And it's an aromatherapy tablet, basically, right? And this is not a new thing, but it was something that I wanted to try. And the scent that I got, you can be any scent that you enjoy, but the scent that I got was lavender vanilla because I happen to really like lavender because it's a very calming scent, right? And it was a way. Aromatherapy is one example, right? What happens when what they say in the article, when you open up your senses and you're paying more attention now to something else aside from all your problems, your to-do list, what happened yesterday, what you're supposed to do tomorrow, right? If your brain tends to be on that track, when you do things that involve your senses, like the aromatherapy, right? Like that's just one example. Then your brain and your senses actually are focused on something else, which I was like, ooh, I love this. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips today. So that's something that I did this past weekend. I actually did not. That was before I read the article, you guys. So after I read the article, I was like, okay, that makes total sense. Good stuff. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips today and things that you can do. I do want to remind you that I'm completely aware that all of us have a different sensory experience or different sensory abilities. So maybe some of us don't have all five of our senses, and that's okay. So I'm going to give you some examples for different senses, but of course, do what works for you, do what you're able to do. For some of you, you may be like, oh my goodness, aromatherapy or like a strong scent. I know a lot of people are very sensitive to strong smells, for example, right? So obviously don't do that part. Or, if sight is limited for you in some way, then maybe that might not be the examples that I share might not be something that you're able to do, which is completely okay. So again, I do want to preface that because senses, I've met thousands and thousands of people in the world with a lot of different ability levels and a lot of different sensitivities to different things. So just wanted to make you aware that this is designed to be what you make it and what works best for you. If you're just tuning in, I'm about to go over some of the tips today for mental health moment, but it really is about how do you use your senses more? How do you pay more attention? And this actually goes into mindfulness, which I love mindfulness because it's just so great for our well-being. But again, we're talking about senses today, um, the different senses that you can use so you can work on reducing your worrying. I am not at all saying this is a cure for anxiety, of course, but it's one tool that you can put in your toolbox. Okay, so the first tip, you can create what's called a sensory kit. So in that kit, you can put things that appeal to your different senses. So for example, maybe if you're looking at thinking about smell, I know I gave you the example before about aromatherapy. Maybe you like candles or of different scents. The scents that you love, though, buy things that you enjoy. Sometimes you all, and I know this happens to you too. When you smell a certain candle, I know for me, I'm just like, oh my God, this smells horrible, right? You go to a store and you smell a candle, you're like, this is like disgusting. Please don't buy that one, obviously. So this is designed for things that would be a different type of aromatherapy. But this is designed for things that also bring you joy. But it's going to appeal to your senses. So again, for me, one of the senses I love is lavender. Let me know in the in the comments here what scents you enjoy. Maybe it's lavender, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's vanilla or some other scent, right? But the point is that's something you can put in what I would call your sensory kit. So some type of candle that you can smell, for example, or essential oils. The other thing you can think about when it comes to touch are things that, and again, we all have different levels of sensitivity when it comes to texture. But a lot of times, those stress balls, maybe if you go to conferences or, I mean, everywhere, I feel like, usually give out little gifts of gift balls or gift balls of stress balls sometimes as gifts. But like a stress ball or some type of blanket or some type of material that you can physically touch, right? That can be a part of your sensory kit. So I don't know if you all remember this years ago, but the spinners, it was actually somebody said yes. The fidget spinners from I don't even know how many years ago when that came out. That was a really good tool. I mean, it's for children and adults, really, but it was about attention, but it was also something that you could physically touch or physically spin or move around. Those type of tactile things that you can feel are what you can add to your sensory kit as well. The other thing is taste. So for taste, and again, if you think of visualizing like a little basket, and you can put these things in there. So you might want to, for those of you who are not new to mental health moment, I love tea, right? I love my cups of tea. So if for you love tea too, you can put little tea bags in there, or whatever it is, little candies, little snacks, or something in there that is something quick that you can do. Again, making a cup of tea is pretty quick, or some quick snack or something like that when you think about engaging in something that you like to eat. Usually in my Instagram stories, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, because I feel like every week is some kind of new tea or another that I'm trying. But nonetheless, think about what small item, again, if you think about a basket that you're putting together for the sensory kit, that you can put in there when you need to take a minute and then think about the things that you're tasting. And before I go on with the other examples, the reason why this is important, again, as I mentioned, for those of you just joining here, is when you start to when you start to really engage your senses, it can help you to stop worrying about the things temporarily that you're worrying about. You're giving your brain a break, because instead of your brain spending the time and energy thinking about whatever it is it's thinking about, your brain can only do so many things at a time. Your brain now can be focused on what you're eating, or what you're smelling, or what you're hearing, right? Like those types of things. But also, the next thing on the list is sound for your sensory kit that you can create. So sound meaning, and you don't necessarily have to physically put something in there, but thinking about maybe putting a little note in there, actually reminding yourself about sound. And it can be music, for example, or something else pleasant that you like to hear. There are so many meditation tracks, like short meditation tracks on apps, on YouTube, on like a gazillion different outlets. You can Google it, right? So you can always find either something inspirational to listen to, or maybe it's meditation, maybe it's nature sounds, maybe it's music for you, whatever it is that you, hold on a minute. Okay, sorry, my computer was like, "Do you want to do update right now?" No, I do not. Not in the middle of this live. I was making sure I pressed the right button and didn't press like do it right now. All right, sorry about that. Um, but um, but I was saying that whatever sound it is for you that you find enjoyable is what's most important, right? So let me know in the comments. Someone said definitely music. Let me know in the comments an example for you that you would think about when you think about sound that you want to listen to. And again, maybe for some of you it's music, maybe it's like a meditation track, maybe you like listening to the sound of nature. Like, what is it for you that you enjoy? And then the last thing is going to be sight, right? So things that you, well, like to look at. So maybe it's a piece of art, maybe it's, I don't know, a picture of a plant, maybe it's a picture of your pet, a picture of your family, whatever. Like the options are huge, of course, of things that bring you joy, right? So taking a little snapshot, taking a little photo, and these things are just an example that you could put in a basket, but you can also work on experiencing these things, not just the things you have in the basket, but experiencing it live, if you will, as well. Meaning, sight could mean actually a lot of these things you can do on like a nature walk. Let's say I love nature walks, as some of you already know, but taking a walk and you're paying attention to the sounds. So now you're paying attention to maybe if there's birds chirping, and you're paying attention to how the wind feels, or if you're in a colder climate, what that feels like on your skin, or if you're like me in Florida and sweating because it's so hot here right now, you're paying attention to that. How does that feel on your skin? How does it feel to feel the sun, right? Or you're obviously seeing, not obviously, but maybe seeing different things in your environment. So these are just some examples of how you can incorporate all these things all at once. Rain is super relaxing, and we're about to get into our rainy season in Florida, so yeah, sometimes it's hard on those days. It's like a pro and a con, right? Because it's hard on those days because it's so rainy. You're just like, oh, I just want to relax, but maybe you have something to do, right? So pros and cons to the rain, and the other Well, I talked about before. The other thing was, again, sometimes you can sometimes you can do things that incorporate, like, for example, what I talked about before, the sensory walk or like a nature walk or something where you're either using your sensory kit that you put together for you, or and also you can do things that try to incorporate more than one sense, right? So if you were sitting down and only listening to music and tuning in only to music, nothing wrong with that. That's not necessarily using all of your senses, right? Versus if you went to a restaurant and you sat outside and you paid attention to what you're eating and you paid attention to what was going on around you and what you heard, you paid attention to what you're seeing. So you get the idea, right? So, so again, the major thing to remember today is to really think about, how do I start to pay attention to the senses? Again, all of us have different ability levels and sensitivity levels, but whatever you're able to do and is best for you, but paying more attention to that. Because again, when we have strong emotions, we tend to block out a lot of those things, right? And we're focusing and we're worrying and we're like on a totally different track outside of like our physical being, sometimes, which can not be helpful for your mental health long term. So this is just one example. And if you're like, oh my goodness, this is so overwhelming, like how am I supposed to do all these things? It's, as a start, if you're starting out into mindfulness and you're starting out into developing this way of paying attention to your senses, you can literally start with a minute. I always tell you all, for those of you not new, start with 60 seconds a day. And if you're really like, I am so overwhelmed, I don't have enough time to add anything else to my plate, which is okay. If you feel that way, then you can try these things for things that you are already doing. So there's something called having like a mindful meal, for example, where you, let's say you're having a meal by yourself and you really sit down and pay attention to the food that is entering your mouth, to the chewing that you're doing, to swallowing the food, to taking a drink. So you're paying attention to each part, because what we normally tend to do is, again, we're in our heads thinking about something completely different than the present, which is not being mindful in that moment. But that's one example, because we do need to eat, right, to survive. So one example of something that you're probably already doing, hopefully each day, and you're able to implement that mindful moment for eating. Or if it's brushing your teeth, or if it's washing your face, or if it's washing dishes, or whatever it is that you are already doing in your day, practicing to like feel your senses and paying attention. Okay, what am I hearing right now? What am I seeing right now? What am I feeling right now? What am I tasting right now if you're eating? Right? Like those things are really important. What are you hearing? And meditation can occur anywhere, right? So you could, be in the comfort of where you live and meditate. You can meditate outside, you can meditate at work. Like there's, I mean, it's not location specific, right? So that's a really great point. Even closing your eyes, pretending to be in certain places, that's also somewhat an example of sight. I mean, it's more visualization, but nonetheless, you can do that as well, right? It's all about trying your best to be in that present moment. The possibilities are really endless, but what I'm trying to do on these mental health moments with you all is just give you some starting points for you to think about. Again, you may be like, I want to do all those things. Oh my goodness, which is nothing wrong with that. Take your time with it, do what works best for you at the start. Or you may be like, you know what? I don't want to do all those things, but I'm going to pick out a couple. Do that. That's fantastic as well, right? Do what works best for you. But this is the starting point, right? And again, maybe you're already like, I'm practicing my mindfulness. I'm doing my things. I've been watching mental health for a while, which is great that you're already on that path. But it's always like, what else can you add in your toolkit, right? What else can you try? And also, by the way, your brain loves to learn new things. That's just the way we're wired. There's way more research study. That's a whole nother mental health moment, but what that can do for you as well when you're learning new things, right? So it's the same thing with stress management, the same thing with self-care, introducing like your brain learning new things, trying new foods, trying new experiences, taking a walk in a different place that you haven't walked before, all those sorts of things your brain is starting to process. But when you're doing more things that are enjoyable, more things that are new, again, your brain is processing that instead of all the worry and the stress and the what ifs and the whys and what I got to do, like all those things, right? So let's give our brains a break and try some of these things. So those are my tips for you today. Make sure you try those things. Before I wrap up, I did want to remind you all, it's on the screen here, that my new book is on pre-order. I am super, super excited about it. It's called Mindset Training, Conquer Your Mind, and the Rest Will Follow, which has even more tips about self-care, but it's really about how do you grow physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and how do you train your mind for your growth. So again, you can show up powerfully for yourself and for those around you. It was definitely inspired by mental health moment and all of you, and also inspired by everything that happened after COVID-19. It felt ridiculously crazy when the world, it felt like the world fell apart in 2020 with, the pandemic and all that that brought globally. It brought a lot of stress, unfortunately, a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, a lot of changes, and also a lot of people got burnt out, frankly. So during that time, I really started thinking about, okay, what do we need to work on? One of the things is definitely our mind, always our mindset, no matter what. And then this book was birthed from that. So I encourage you to pre-order your copy. Also, when you go to mindsettrainingbook.com, there are plenty of really fun bonuses as well for pre-ordering. And I'm super, super excited about it. So I'll be reminding you all about the website, of course, mindsettrainingbook.com, and other exciting announcements to come later on in the year as well. So if you all have any questions, you all know you can always reach out Dr.NekeshiaHammond.com on my website, or Instagram, Dr.Hammond, or LinkedIn. Be sure to connect, or Facebook, or X now as it's called. I always want to say Twitter, but we'll say X, the new name. Have an amazing week. Make sure that you start to add these things to your toolkit. Have a great week, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, guys.